Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into something incredible. A hidden universe that's not just all around us, but it's inside us too. I mean, think about it. A world that's running the show. Every single second of our lives, but for most of human history, we didn't even know it was there. So what if I told you that the biggest story in the entire universe, the story of life, of conflict, of creation itself, what if that whole drama was playing out on a stage so tiny we couldn't even see it? Well, guess what? It is. We are talking about the story of the cell. That fundamental, microscopic little unit that defines, well, every single living thing we've ever known. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go back. I want you to imagine a time when we had absolutely no clue what we were made of. I mean, for thousands of years, the very foundation of life, it was a total black box. Seriously, just try to wrap your head around that. For centuries, everything alive, from a giant redwood tree to a tiny ant, was built from these microscopic bits, and we were completely in the dark. The secret to life itself was literally right under our noses, but we just didn't have the key to see it. And that all changed, right? It changed when a few really curious people back in the 17th century started tinkering, building these newfangled instruments that could finally peek into that invisible world. You could call them the very first pioneers of inner space. And oh man, the path they followed, it's a fascinating story. It all kicked off with a really simple observation back in 1665, and it took nearly 200 years to finally culminate in one of the most important, game-changing theories in all of science. So, where does our story begin? With a guy named Robert Hooke. He was this brilliant scientist in 17th century England, working for the Royal Society. And one day, he's just messing around with one of his new microscopes, and he decides to look at a super thin slice of cork. Just a boring old piece of cork. He had no idea that this one little act was about to give a name to the fundamental building block of life. So he looks through the eyepiece, and what does he see? He described it as a bunch of tiny, empty boxes, kind of like a honeycomb, and they reminded him of the little rooms, the cells, where monks lived in a monastery. And yeah, the name just stuck. But here's the really crucial part. Hooke wasn't seeing life. He was just seeing the empty, dead walls of plant tissue. Okay, so fast forward just a few years, let's meet our next pioneer. This guy, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, was actually a fabric merchant in the Netherlands, but he had this incredible hobby. He built his own microscopes, and they were way more powerful than Hooke's. And he wasn't looking at dead cork, no. He decided to look at a single drop of pond water, and what he saw, well, it changed absolutely everything. And this difference is so important, right? Where Hooke saw these static, empty rooms, Leeuwenhoek saw a bustling, chaotic world just teeming with life. He saw these tiny little creatures swimming around, and he called them animalcules, little animals. This was it. This was the moment, the very first time a human being had ever laid eyes on actual, living, single-celled organisms. So for the next 150 years or so, these were just interesting, scattered observations, little pieces of a puzzle. But then, in the 1800s, scientists really started to connect the dots. They were trying to figure out, okay, what are the rules here? What are the fundamental laws of this tiny, invisible world? And what they came up with was cell theory. And honestly, it's a concept that is so simple, but at the same time, so profound that it literally became the bedrock of all modern biology. All it says really is that the one thing every single living thing has in common is the cell. So how did they get there? Well, the theory was kind of built in 3 key steps. Step 1, back in the late 1830s, 2 scientists, Schleiden and Schwann, figured out that both plants and animals are made of cells. That was huge. It basically unified the entire living world under one idea. But there was still a big piece missing from the puzzle. A huge question: where do new cells actually come from? And that final, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle, it came from a guy named Rudolf Virchow in 1855. He declared in Latin, omnis cellula e cellula, which just means every cell from a cell. Now that sounds so simple to us today, right? But back then, it was revolutionary. It completely shattered this ancient idea called spontaneous generation. The belief that life could just, poof, appear out of nowhere, like flies coming from rotting meat. Virchow proved that was wrong. Life, he showed, is an unbroken chain, a lineage that stretches all the way back to the very beginning. So, okay, the rules of life are now established. The foundation is set. And that means the next great age of discovery could finally begin. Because now it wasn't enough just to see the cell. Scientists wanted to go deeper. They wanted to know what's actually going on inside. And the key that unlocked this new inner world, it was a total technological marvel, the electron microscope. This thing let us see stuff that was just completely unimaginable with those old, simple light microscopes. How powerful. We're talking 500,000 times magnification. Let me put that into perspective for you. That's like taking one single grain of sand and blowing it up until it's the size of a football stadium. I mean, it's just incredible. And with that kind of power, that simple little box or blob that scientists had been looking at for centuries was suddenly revealed to be a bustling, complex, living city. And so what did we find inside this city? A whole new world of tiny structures. They're called organelles, and each one has a very specific job. You've got the mitochondria. They're the power plants, keeping the lights on. You've got the ribosomes. They're the factories, churning out proteins. And then deep inside the nucleus, the city hall, you've got the master blueprint for the entire operation, DNA. Which of course brings us to today, because this whole long history of discovery, it's not just some dusty old academic story. Nope, it is the absolute foundation of our modern world, and it's the key to our future. Think about it. Every single major medical breakthrough we have today, from the most advanced cures to everyday life-saving treatments, all of it relies on this fundamental understanding of how our cells work, and maybe even more importantly, what happens when they go wrong. I mean, just consider this for a second. Developing drugs that can hunt down and target only cancer cells, using stem cells to literally repair damaged tissues in our bodies, creating life-saving vaccines in record time. All of that, every single bit of it, is only possible because we have this deep, intimate knowledge of the cell. So you see, in the end, the cell isn't just some piece of biological machinery. It's so much more. It's like a living archive. It holds the entire story of evolution, it holds the secrets to our health, and yeah, it holds the blueprint of our own personal history. So from a simple, curious peek at a piece of cork, all the way to the complex therapies that are saving lives right now, this journey into the cell has truly been one of humanity's greatest adventures. And the only question left is, what are we going to write in the next chapter?